You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, our family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today.
I'm looking for the book on the table. All the way over in the corner with his back to a wall, there's a book on a table. And the title of the book is Terminal List. And the name on the cover is Jack Carr. Hey Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I knew I'd find you in the corner.
You knew it.
Hey, come on.
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Not a problem. You've got to tell me a little bit about Terminal List.
All right, yeah. So it's a book really about revenge without constraint. And it's the main character is a Navy SEAL whose career very loosely mimics mine, and that he's a former Navy SEAL sniper that becomes an officer and has made the decision to get out and take care of his family, which is when disaster strikes both on the battlefield and on the home front. And he finds out that he and his troop have unwittingly been the test subjects of a government drug inoculation program that has some adverse side effects, which leads to his troop and family being killed. So he slowly unravels this conspiracy and then starts working his way up a list, the terminal list, putting the bad guys in the ground one by one. But more than that, really, he's abandoning everything he believed for his last 16 plus years at war, but really for his entire life, and essentially becomes the insurgent that he's been fighting overseas, becomes the terrorist, and brings the tactics that worked well against U.S. forces overseas here to U.S. soil as he works his way up his list.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Now, I made a point of pointing out that you are sitting in the corner, and I knew you'd be in the corner. Now, that's a SEAL. That's a SEAL trait. Yeah, back to the wall. That's a SEAL trait. Come on, isn't it?
Well, or anybody that is situationally aware of their surroundings and wants to be prepared.
Hey, I knew I'd find you back on the back wall, not right inside the door like half my authors.
That's funny. Yeah, yeah, it's a habit.
I'd say it's a good one.
Well, thank you.
What made a United States Navy SEAL decide to become an author?
Yeah, so I wanted to do it since I was a little kid. Those were the two things I wanted to do. One was serve my country in uniform as a Navy SEAL as soon as I found out what they were, which was about age 7 for me. And the other was to write fiction. My mom was a librarian, so we were surrounded by books growing up, and she instilled a love of reading in us in a very early age. So it was just a natural thing for me to want to do. But those were the two things I wanted to do. So as I was getting out of the military, I thought, okay, now's the time to give writing a shot. Don't want to be on my deathbed looking back and wondering what would have happened if I'd tried to pursue that other dream. So it was high time to start writing, and the result is the Terminal List.
Well, I can't wait to read it.
Oh, thank you.
I do have to ask, everyone has those people that they admire in either the profession they're in or the profession they wanted to go in. Were there any current authors in your genre that you looked up to?
Oh, yeah, and because I wanted to do this for so long, there are quite a few. It's a fairly long list. But very early on, I think probably junior high school, well, I gravitated towards political military thrillers very early. So with Tom Clancy and J.C. Pollock and Nelson DeMille, and then later on Daniel Silva, Brad Thor, Vince Flynn. But I think the first mention of SEALs in a fictional thriller was David Morrell's Brotherhood of the Rose. And I think I read that maybe 8th grade or maybe freshman in high school. But what a great book! But it's the first book that I know of anyway that mentions SEALs. So I looked up to all those guys, and the crazy thing is that now we're in the same profession, and they all welcomed me with open arms, which is absolutely incredible. So being able to talk to someone I've looked up to since I was a little kid, and having David Morrell giving me advice on email is just absolutely incredible. And I certainly wouldn't be a published author today if it weren't for Brad Thor. So I've been very fortunate along the way. And all these guys have been so generous with their time, with their advice, with their mentorship, just really, really good group of people.
Well, regular listeners of my show will know that Brad Thor is the only author that I read regularly that I name on air. I do read others, but he is the only one I name.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he is just so nice, and I will never be able to thank him enough, which is why he's the first person I thank in the acknowledgments of the book.
Well, that's great. It had always been a dream, and you finally got to do it. What was the hardest part about writing this book?
Was making the time when you have 3 little kids climbing all over you all the time and vying for time. And when I started writing, we were in Coronado, California. So that's really, as a SEAL, you're in Coronado, California, or Virginia Beach, Virginia. But in Coronado, you're packed in there pretty tight. So there's neighbors right there. There's weed blowers going off all the time. There's lawnmowers going off all the time. There's neighbors coming over. There's UPS people coming by, ringing the doorbell. So there's just so many distractions. So taking a breath and figuring out a time to write, that was the hardest part. And so a lot of this was written between 10 at night and 3 in the morning, because that seemed to be the only time where you could actually have a little peace and quiet. But, every single part of this was a true pleasure. I loved every single part of the process, from coming up with the idea to coming up with the title to putting the outline together, writing, editing. So I just feel so fortunate to be doing what I love.
Well, since you mentioned editing, they say editing is slaying your darlings. What was the one thing you loved, but you had to take out of Terminal List because it didn't move the plot forward?
Well, it's not so much that it didn't move the plot forward. There's one scene in the book that's fairly graphic and violent, where one of the bad guys meets his demise, and there is another version that's a little more violent. But I took it out before I even sent it to Simon & Schuster. So maybe on the website or for a newsletter or special access at some point, it'll be like a DVD special feature for movies. But maybe I'll share that with people at some point. But it was just I thought it might be a little much, but I almost like it a little bit better. Anyway, that's the one that came out that comes to mind.
Sometimes you have to know your audience and know how much they can take.
Maybe it is it's a very primal story, very visceral. And when I started this, I wrote about 5 different ideas down, and then I chose the one that I thought I'd be the most hard hitting out of the gate. So I wanted this to be something that was very primal, very visceral, be something that would catch the eye of a major publisher. So I went with the plot line that I thought would do that. And I always loved reading books that had that revenge theme growing up, and I love watching movies that had the same theme. So it was very natural for me to want to write about that. And the little bit of twist on that is that I wanted it to be more than just the person that has nothing left to lose, quote unquote. I thought you always have something left to lose, unless you're already dead. So I thought, well, how does one already be dead but still really be alive? And that's where the drug testing came from, where the main character, the protagonist, James Reese, actually goes into battle thinking he's already dead, kind of like the ancient samurai warriors. They did something very similar from their Code of Bushido. They thought they were already dead going into battle because they thought that made them more effective and efficient warriors. So I wanted to apply that to a modern day narrative and a modern day hero.
Fantastic. That is amazing. You must be a student of history as well, or at least of warriors.
Yeah, so that's for me, I knew I wanted to be a SEAL from a very early age. And so I studied everything I possibly could that I thought would make me a better special operator. So I did that growing up. And then when I got to the SEAL teams, I continued that study. And then I became an officer. And then September 11th happened before I became an officer. But after September 11th, I really focused on the nonfiction of, lessons learned from people who had been to the places that we were soon to be going, the politics, the economy, religion, language, anything I could possibly study to make better decisions under pressure for the guys when it counted. So, and I wasn't really thinking of it in these terms at the time, but now looking back, it gave me a great foundation to write fiction, because a lot of that nonfiction part of the study has already been done in this for the things I like to write about and explore. So I have a good foundation from which to build.
Now, because of your background, you have to submit your books for a security clearance review.
Right.
How long does this process take? And you chose to leave the blacked out sentences in the book blacked out, redacted.
I did. So there's a regulation, and it's hard to read anything in legalese these days if you're not an attorney. So I did get help from a law firm so they could translate this for me. And there's a regulation that relates to anyone that's had certain security clearances. And if you read and interpret that regulation conservatively, then really anything you write, even if it's a cookbook that has nothing to do with the military, you should submit to the Department of Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Review for approval. So I did that, submitted it to them, and I forget if it was 30 or 60 days. I'll have to check, but either 30 or 60 days. They're pretty much on time. They were a little bit late, which wasn't too bad considering the military is a gigantic bureaucracy. So I was happy with how they their timeliness in getting it back. And I'm not the arbiter of what's classified and what's not. And I tried to I thought everything in the book was not classified, and I certainly didn't want to give up anything that could help the enemy or endanger the guys that are still going down range to do the job. But I was very surprised when it came back with a few redactions. So it's like, I forget how many exact sentences, but 5, 6, 7, 8 sentences that they took out. And I decided, well, why don't I just leave these in redacted? Because, one, it's kind of interesting, and two, I didn't know if I had to resubmit it then. If I tried to write around them or change those sentences or whatever, then did I have to send it back for another 30 to 60 days and then wait again? And so I just left them in as redacted as they came to me from the Department of Defense.
I find it very interesting that you did that, and I think your reasons are equally as interesting.
Yeah, I'd seen it done in nonfiction before, but I'd never seen it done in fiction. So as far as I know, this is the first time it's been done in fiction. It might have been done somewhere else, but it's not that I know of.
Like you, I've seen this in nonfiction. And my regular listeners know I will read anything if it sits in front of me long enough, even the cereal box. I am a voracious reader.
As am I.
It's very intriguing to know. Did your publisher give you any grief about leaving the redacted sentences in?
Nope, they just asked the reason, and I told them the same reason that I told you, and they said, "Well, that makes sense. Let's leave them in." So no, didn't get any pushback whatsoever. They've been Emily Bessler books, which is an imprint of Atria and Simon and Schuster, just amazing to work with, and I can't say enough good things about Emily Bessler. Just absolutely incredible. I'm so fortunate to be working with her.
Well, that is one amazing story. Now, back to your time as a SEAL for just a moment. SEALs are, to some extent, creatures of habit. Now, they may vary the routine to an extent, but there's always a few little things they keep the same, like their favorite meal when they get home.
Yeah. So we're all creatures of habit, and I guess fortunately or unfortunately, that's one of the ways that we catch the bad guys, because they're creatures of habit as well. But when I get home, I love to have a nice taco dinner.
Very, very good. So that's always your I just got home kind of celebration.
Yeah, I mean, soon thereafter anyway. So, yeah.
And I'm assuming this was with your family, or was it with your team?
Yep, no, with the family. Yeah, with the family.
That's cool. I do have to ask, what was it like being a SEAL, knowing you had a family halfway around the world?
Yeah, so the family that gets left behind definitely has it tougher than those of us that go downrange, because we're downrange with our friends, with our teammates. We're focused on a mission. We have a shared sense of purpose. We have a goal that is, we're living for something greater than ourselves, and we're solely focused on the task at hand. So we're not changing diapers. We're not fixing a leaky roof. We're not taking the kids to soccer practice. We're not taking them to the doctors. We're not dealing with any of that stuff, not paying the bills. So we are focused on the task at hand, which in a lot of ways is much easier than being left behind to do all those things and worry at the same time, especially with a 24-hour news cycle that reports on incidents overseas very quickly and leaves those at home, wondering if their loved one are involved in the latest in the latest thing on the news where U.S. servicemen are killed overseas. So it's definitely tougher for those left behind, that's for sure. And now my mission in life is taking care of my family. Now,
you mentioned that you got out of the SEALs to take care of your family. And you left, correct me if I'm wrong, but you left before completing the full 20 years. Is that correct?
Nope. I got out at 20. So I got back from my last deployment and was moving on to a series of staff jobs. Probably there's a lot of that in my future as an officer, and that's not why I came into the military. So it was time for me. I was able to take that breath, because when you're taking guys downrange, you really have to be solely focused on doing that. It's what you owe them. That's what you owe their families. That's what you owe the mission, and by default, that's what you owe the country. But when I got back from that deployment and moved into our training command, then I wasn't taking guys downrange anymore. So I wasn't responsible for those lives. So I took a breath and looked around and said, okay, I had a series of great deployments behind me, and did pretty much everything I came into the military to do. And now my family needs me. We have a middle child with some severe special needs, and he'll need 24/7 full-time care forever. So essentially that made the decision for me to get out. So took that breath and made the decision to move on. But I had a couple of years left at that training command. It didn't have a deployment attached. So I was able to look forward and figure out our next move as we got out of the military. So I feel very fortunate to have had that time, and then also to have a next mission in life, which is taking care of our son and taking care of the rest of the family as well. So I have that purpose moving forward.
Did you have any trouble transitioning out of such a high intensity environment of the United States Navy SEALs to being dad?
Yeah, so a lot of guys have problems with that transition, and it's not just in military, and it's not just special operations. It's you hear the same thing from people that have been in professional sports or have been Olympic athletes. So there's that same period of transition where they need to find that next thing that really has meaning for them, that next mission, that next purpose. So mine was essentially handed to me with our son's situation, so I didn't have to search very far for mine. So I accepted that, and that's my next mission. So as far as having a hard time transitioning, I was very fortunate to have a lot of options and opportunities. And the one I wanted to pursue was writing. So, and here we are talking about it now. Was the writing harder to do when you were out of the SEALs, or easier, or how did that transition affect your writing? It's really just about finding the time to do it. I started writing a little bit before I got out. During that last year, when you're transitioning out of the military, there's a lot of administrative things that you need to do to get out. And so I started, coming up with the storyline and started doing some writing during that time. And then when I got out, I continued to write and refine and get it to a point where I thought it was good enough to send to Simon & Schuster. When it was at that point, then off it went. But I just absolutely love writing, and it's never felt like a burden. I think it was Stephen Pressfield, and I don't think it was one of his books, but I think it was maybe a podcast where he said, "Hey, you've never heard of a trucker getting trucker's block?" And I said, "Oh, that's interesting." So I never had that writer's block that some people talk about. I just love sitting down and writing, so I do it every chance I get. Now, your writing style, how well do you plot out your manuscripts when you're in that planning and plotting phase? Right. So first came the idea, then came a title, and then came an outline. And as I wrote, I filled in that outline with things that would come to mind as I was writing. So I filled in parts of that outline and did that until probably just over the halfway point. And then I discarded the outline and continued to just write and fill things in as I went. So it was very helpful to me to have that outline to visually see how things were flowing, just so I could say, oh, I think I need a little more bad guy development here, or I think this happened too fast or not fast enough. This needed a little more development. So that really helped to visually be able to see that. But once I was past that halfway point, it just kind of became not as efficient to do it that way, and it was very natural just to keep writing. So that was pretty much the process.
Now, when you were plotting the things out on the outline, did you go into real detail, or did you just kind of trust that James Reese would know what to do and you'd be able to run with him and let him run away with the plot?
Yeah, so I didn't let it hold me up. So there are certain things in the outline that I didn't have answers for, and I didn't dwell on those while I was looking at an outline. Or if I filled in a section that still had a question mark to it, I didn't know how he was going to overcome a certain obstacle or a challenge, I just leave it as it was in the outline with a question mark or a question written there. And then as I was writing, it seemed to work itself out through the writing. So yeah, I never let that slow me down.
Well, your author that you look up to, Brad Thor. Would you believe? I'm sure he's told you, but he does it much the same way.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, we've never talked about process.
Well, let me play you an excerpt from one of his interviews.
Oh, great.
Well, to get the book kicked off, I have to turn in an outline of some sort to my editor, and I try to keep that outline as narrow as possible. Robert Frost was famous for saying, no joy in the writer, no joy in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. So I tried once. I'm friendly with Dan Brown, and Dan once gave me a very, very exclusive peek into the outline he had done for Da Vinci Code, and it was incredibly extensive. And I thought, maybe I should try this. And I outlined a book, and it took all of the wind out of my sails. It took all of the excitement. All of that surprise, as Robert Frost talked about, it was gone from me. I will do an outline where I know, okay, this guy's got 2 bullets in him. He's on this side of Bern in Switzerland, and he has to be at the train station in 10 minutes with the briefcase in his hand, and I don't know how he's going to get there. And that's how I know I'm in the zone, is when I'm having the experience writing the book that the reader is having reading it, when my palms get sweaty and when my heart starts pounding. That, to me, tells me I'm doing something right. I like to paint myself into a corner as a writer, paint my characters into corners, and see how they'll get out.
That is how he handles things. So does that sound awfully familiar?
Wow, it sure does. I'd never heard that before, and I'd never heard that Robert Frost quote before either. But it definitely makes sense, and I think we do something very similar. So next time I talk to him, I will ask him about that. But it sounds very similar. So, but interesting. We have the same publisher and same editor, but they didn't require another outline from me for book 2. I just did it myself because it helps guide me. It lets me know, okay, I have something that makes sense here on paper. There's a beginning, a middle, and end, and there's a couple scenes here that I need to get in there because I really want to have this, either this location or this certain thing happen or this piece of gear used or whatever. And then, but yeah, so the free flow writing is, things definitely change as you're doing that, and then that's why I update the outline just so I can see it visually up to a point where I think I can discard it and be more efficient to continue just writing on its own. But doesn't sound like it's a Dan Brown type detailed outline, and it seems like Brad and I are on the same page when I think that would not be as efficient for me just because I'd be spending too much time on the outline and not enough time enjoying the writing process.
Well, for those who would like to track down the rest of that interview, it was a special section of audio added to the audiobook of his book, Full Black, and you can find it on YouTube. I think it's on Brad Thor's channel, but it may be on one of the others, but it is out there.
I'm going to listen to the whole thing.
But I thought that would sound familiar to you based on what you told me.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that you found it so quickly.
What was your favorite part of the writing process? Is it when you finally hand the book over to your editor, you write the end, you hand the book over to your editor, and you think it's done? Or what is it?
Yeah, so favorite, I loved every single part of this. So hard to pick that almost wasn't my favorite part because I enjoyed the process so much, and now I'm giving it to somebody else. So it seems like it's almost, so I wouldn't say that was my favorite part being done. I was almost, I was very happy that it was done just because, wow, wrote a novel. But sending it off was more like, sending your kids off to college, maybe. Like maybe you're gonna have a little, maybe you're gonna have a little free time, but you're also sad to see them go. So I think I think of it more in those terms. But I just loved figuring out the way that James Reese, the protagonist, was going to overcome challenges, like as I'm writing. So that would be probably the most fulfilling in that, wow, okay, as I was writing, this just came to me. Didn't know how it was gonna work out here from the outline, but it just flowed out and figured out how this was gonna work, and now it's a part of the story. And wow, that really really works and sounds good and is true to character. And so that's probably the most fulfilling, I would say. But favorite part of the process is, Jesus, every part.
Being a SEAL, you stayed away from social media, you stayed away from public events and publicity, and now as an author, you're suddenly expected to be on social media, have a website, promote your books, be on TV, be on radio, do podcasts. How did you resolve these two sides of this coin?
Yeah, it's tough. So I just stayed away from it for so long. One, because I didn't grow up with it. Two, I like being outside and doing things rather than attached to my phone or computer. I'm already attached to those two things too much as it is. But also, thirdly, we saw how the enemy could exploit open source social media type networks, and how it was just things out there, who's friends with who's saying what at what time. You can essentially map out an entire command and control structure and know when guys are coming, when they're going, and if they're gone or going, well, guess who's home alone, and guess what the softer target is. So yeah, I shied away from it for all those reasons. But as a debut author, you are expected to dive in to the world of social media. And, I'm so thankful to be in this position that it's just one of those things I have to do. And it is great to be able to communicate and interact with fans of the genre, fans of the book, and other authors. So it is also a very cool thing. But I'm wading in reluctantly, I would say. But I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and have a website. And as you mentioned, I'm doing interviews and podcasts and TV appearances and all the rest. So it's I feel very fortunate to be in this position. And I think the days of being a reclusive author up in the mountains that no one ever sees or hears from, I think those days are over if you really want to make it a success. So I'm all in on it.
Jack, we have reached the time to take the commercial break. So I'm going to pour you a cup of coffee. And then we are going to pay those radio station bills, and we will see you on the other side.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
All right, thank y'all for hanging in there with us while we paid those radio station bills. I'm going to refresh my coffee. And Jack, of course, is still with us. Now, Jack, since we're talking coffee, what is James Reese's favorite coffee shop treat?
Yes. Oh, his treat, not his coffee. So
well, you
his
can,
treat
you can tell me both.
Okay. Well, in the book, I actually go into this. This is actually a character development tool in the novel, and he likes his coffee sweet, which gives his teammates a little something to be able to make fun of him for. The guys that typically like their coffee black. So he's a tough guy, but he likes to sweeten up his coffee, and as do I. But as far as a treat goes, he also likes the sweets. So anything that a coffee shop has that looks like it's the sweetest under that glass as he's getting his coffee, that's going to be what he's going to go for. And mine is a freshly baked croissant with chocolate inside.
Oh, sounds delicious. And yes, chocolate, you just got my attention.
Those are good. They don't have them everywhere. You gotta search, and they're always the best if they're fresh.
Oh, of course. Anything is best when it's fresh out of the oven. Now, you mentioned the character development tool of the coffee. Was that something you put in there intentionally, or was that something that you were teased about as a SEAL for sweetening your coffee?
Good question. So it is something I intentionally put in there. Every now and again, I remember if I ordered a pumpkin spice latte, I might have got a couple looks from the guys. But I wanted to make James Reese somebody that people could relate to. I wanted to make him a likable guy you'd want to have a beer with. but also somebody that had the skills and the background and the mindset who can flip that switch and really get the job done and do what it needs to do in the novel. So yeah, it was in there's a couple other little idiosyncrasies that are in the novel as well that kind of make him seem like a normal guy.
That's cool. That really is. And I find it neat that you decided to pick on one of my favorite things, coffee, to use as a character development device.
Yep. There'll be a few others in there, and they'll continue on into other novels.
Oh,
yeah, he doesn't like mayonnaise, and he prefers the Land Cruiser over the Land Rover, which, if you're in that world, is kind of like the 45 versus 9mm debate.
Not a Land Cruiser or Land Rover person, so.
Right. It's a small niche market.
Yeah, no. And as far as the 45 9mm, I'll keep that preference off air.
Yeah, always best to keep that one off air. That causes a lot of contention.
You are working on another book.
I am, and after this interview, I'm locking down for the rest of this month and next to really put the finishing touches on it and dial it in. But I'm very excited about it. You
mentioned the theme for this book is revenge. Is there a similar one-word theme for the next book?
There is, and it's redemption.
Cool. I'm not going to ask you to give any spoilers. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, well, I'll give you a little something, not really for the book, but for the theme. And I got this from Stephen Pressfield too, and he said he used to write down the theme of his novel on a yellow sticky and put it next to, in his case, his typewriter. So I did the same thing, and I wrote revenge down on a yellow sticky and put it next to my MacBook Air as I was writing. And if something I was writing didn't tie back either directly or indirectly to that theme, then either I wouldn't write it, or if I had started it, I wouldn't finish it, or if I'd finished it, I would toss it out. So doing that with the second novel as well.
I think that's a great tool to help you stay focused.
Yeah, it really has really worked well.
Now, speaking of seals and taking a ribbing for ordering a pumpkin spice latte, you guys still have to eat no matter where in the world you are. There's got to be a meal that just failed epically at some point in your career. Yes. And people are going to think I'm going to say something about Iraq or Afghanistan or, goat or whatever else. But really, that stuff was pretty good, the local stuff, actually. So the worst one that comes to mind when you say that is kimchi in South Korea. For whatever reason, the kimchi, and I can't remember, it was quite long ago, early on in my time in the military. I can't remember if it was out of a jar or out of their version of an MRE or a can. All I remember is that it did not smell appealing at all. So yeah, kimchi from South Korea. And I apologize to anyone out there that loves kimchi, but it's it is the one that pops to mind when you ask me about that. Well, like I said, everybody always has one of those epic. I was waiting for the least favorite MRE to come up. Yeah, no, the MREs aren't bad, but we really went away from those in more recent years and went to more freeze dried type things like Mountain House meals or things like that. But because just the MREs are just not the healthiest. But they get the job done when you need them to. Because I've heard horror stories about an MRE that no longer exists. You may have had a run-in or two with it. The veggie omelet. I was going to ask if it was the omelet. And you know what? It was so disgusting that I never even tried it. All I needed to hear was that there was an omelet MRE, and I never tried it. I probably had most everything else. And for those who are listening, and for you, Jack, yes, I have had the experience of eating a few MREs. Nice. Everybody should try one. Yeah, now I chose a vegetarian one. Ah, good for you. Good for you. Some of them aren't too bad. No, the cheese tortellini was half decent, especially if you warmed it up. Yeah, warming up definitely helps. Well, cold food, unless it's cold pizza, is never my favorite. Got it. You have been halfway around the world and back again. Now you are back in the United States and you're writing. What do you do in your spare time? How do you wind down at the end of the day? Is it whiskey? Is it playing with your kids, going out and skiing? What do you do?
Yeah, so we moved to the mountains. So left the beach. The beach was a big part of our lives for a long time in the SEAL team. So and we're always going to the mountains. So we moved up to the mountains and wanted to raise our kids in a ski town. So we're definitely getting the skiing in and the snowboarding in and the trail running in and the mountain biking and all that sort of thing. But it's mass chaos in this household at all times, which makes writing difficult and makes winding down difficult because by the time you finally get all these little munchkins to bed, you're exhausted. But I do like to support some local companies. So High West Whiskey is something I like, or having a glass of wine with my wife at the end of the day. Is how we kind of unwind on the couch, do a last little check of emails, get ready for the next day, talk things through. But that's kind of how we unwind. And now that the weather's getting better, we'll do that on the deck, looking at some pretty spectacular mountain views.
That is great. That is a great way to relax. Now, with the transition, you just mentioned a whole lot of physically active tasks, mountain biking, snowboarding, skiing. I'm sure your level of fitness has had to have changed at least somewhat from being in the teams. How did that affect you?
Yeah, so my goal now is to be able to play with my kids and to do things with them. So instead of getting ready for a deployment, getting ready for a fight, something like that, I'm now getting ready to play with my kids and for that longevity. So looking more at long-term health rather than peaking for a certain deployment or something like that. So it's changed in that respect. And then also I got a little bunged up. I feel very fortunate though that a lot of guys have a lot more to deal with than I do. That's for sure. So I wake up every morning so fortunate that I've just had a couple little surgeries here and there. So I have a knee, shoulder, and a spine surgery. And so I'm a little more careful with, especially on the spine side of the house, just about how I do things and how I exercise and that sort of thing. So it's always something I'm very cognizant of. But I get up early and work out before everybody else is awake and try to maintain a level of fitness that keeps me prepared for whatever life might throw at me.
That is a great mindset. And what's your favorite activity with your kids? Is it building snowmen? Is it taking them to run down the local hill on the sled? What do you like to do with the kids?
Yeah, I like to ski with them. Yeah, get on the mountain. All electronics are put away. There's not even an option. You can't pull out the iPad, can't pull out an iPhone, can't get on the Xbox, all that sort of thing. So there's no distraction there whatsoever. And we'll transition from skiing on the groom slopes here over the next year and get into the backcountry. So I want to make them be comfortable in the backcountry, just comfortable away from modern conveniences, so that they're more competent and confident people.
Now, are you able to include your special needs child in these activities? Are there
that's the tough
devices?
part. That's the tough part. So no, he can't get out on the mountain with us. So we have to have somebody that watches him while we're doing those sorts of things. But I try to include him as much as we possibly can, and do cool things together as a family. But you just have to do different things. So just going to the park or running around the field or whatever like that. So just things that he can do that let him feel like he's loved and a part of the family and all that. So we definitely do other things that he can do with us as well.
Does your family play board games? If so, what's the family favorite?
So I want to play more board games, especially now that we're in the mountains. So we need to organize that a little better. But there's a version of Monopoly called Whitetail-opoly that we play. So instead of all the normal things in Monopoly, it has firearms manufacturers and hunting properties and things like that. So we play that one.
I might have to check that one out. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's something the kids kind of can relate to because we're surrounded by that sort of thing.
Now, I know the cover to your book has a story. Why don't you inform the listeners what that is?
Yeah, so we got the first version of the cover. I think it was, just shy of a year ago, right around this time. And it was similar in that there was a guy on the cover, but it was black and white, and the color was gold. The actual writing was gold. And there's a story on my website that the officialjackcarr.com, if anyone's interested, but that goes through the evolution of the cover and actually shows the pictures of it. And I was so excited to see it because, wow, this is a novel. It's coming out. It's being published, and wow. So I was going to love no matter what they showed me. But then took a little breath and slept on it and thought maybe it looked a little bit too much like 50 Shades of Grey, especially for a debut author that no one's ever heard of before. So we went back to the drawing board and thought, okay, we need to create a cover that really signifies that this is a political military thriller. And hence we ended up, after a few other iterations, with kind of a red, white, and blue color scheme, and with the background being Washington, D.C. So you have that power politics in the background. You still have the guy on the front. If you look close enough, he's holding a Glock 19, which is James Reese's favorite pistol in the book. Finger off the trigger. So, it was an evolution, and that's all described on the website.
That is great. Now, you've mentioned Glock in your book a few times, I believe. At least you've mentioned it to me both on and off air a couple times. Would that happen to be your favorite everyday carry as well?
That is my go-to. I have quite a few different weapons to choose from, but really the Glock 19 is my go-to. And hence even though in the SEAL teams we use the SIG P226, or we used to anyway. And I mentioned that in the novel, but I also wanted James Reese to have another weapon that he liked to use, and that's the Glock 19.
Now, how did you come up with the tomahawk?
I might have to keep that one secret.
Well, can you tell me a little bit more about the tomahawk and why you chose it?
Let's see. Well, I've always been, before I came in the military, I always loved that sort of weapons of all kinds, and the tomahawk has held a particularly important place in my, I guess, collection of weapons, if you could say. But there's something about giving somebody a blade or giving someone a tomahawk that is, I don't know, probably because it is so primal and it means so much, and it's kind of in our DNA to just recognize that this is a special thing. So it was just natural for me to incorporate that into the novel.
Now, is there anything I haven't touched on that you wanted to bring up?
Ooh, there's, let's see, nothing in particular. Just maybe if anybody else out there is, if this is something that someone wants to do. Brad Thor gave me some great advice the first time we spoke, and he told me the only difference between a published author and an unpublished author is that the published author never quit. And I liked that because in BUDS and SEAL training, you have this bell, and at any point during the training, you can ring that bell 3 times and put your helmet down, and you're out. You're warm again. You have food again. You never have to experience the misery that is SEAL training. So never quitting is something that is very close to my heart. So that him telling me that made sense. And then the second thing he told me, he said, "Give yourself permission to write a bad chapter." And I thought, oh, wow, that's amazing. Brad Thor is telling me that I can write a bad chapter. And that was very liberating. So, but he also said, make every chapter as good as the first one. So those two things are juxtaposed. But I think what he really meant by give yourself permission to write a bad chapter is get out there and just do it. Don't wait for the stars to align. Don't wait for everything to be perfect, because nothing's ever perfect. Just get out there and write. Just do it. So it's not that he's saying it's okay to write a bad chapter. It's that he's saying don't wait for everything to be perfect. Just start writing. Get out there and write.
Now, I have one last question given your background. If you were going to give the listeners a couple of simple situational awareness tips, what would your top 2 or 3 be?
Well, practically speaking, you have to get out of your phone and pick your head up and look around. And main thing is to trust your instinct, trust your gut, and think of something called JDLR. It just doesn't look right. If something doesn't look right, then it's probably not right. And trust your instincts and avoid that situation. So then you won't have to go into a de-escalation or a retreat or an engagement. So being able to avoid things that are out there, but part of that avoidance is picking your head up out of your phone, looking around, being aware, and if something doesn't look right, don't push a bad position. Just trust your instincts, trust your gut, and avoid.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me in the coffee shop.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time.
Now, just like I do with every guest in the coffee shop, why don't you give us your social media contact information?
All right. So I am Jack Carr, C-A-R-R, Jack Carr USA on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then I have a website that is officialjackcarr.com that has a few more articles on there about the cover and about different gear and weapons used in the book. So please visit me on any and all of those.
All right. Now we have reached my favorite point of the interview. I've been eyeing that copy of Terminal List this whole time. And I'd like to remind listeners that for those of you who'd like to track me down, you can find me on Twitter at Radio Host Jessie. And you can email me at the station at Jessie, Jessie, at KLRNRadio.com. Now, I'm going to pour myself a cup of coffee and snatch up that copy of Terminal List off the table and settle down for a great book. And I will see you folks next time in the coffee shop.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@KLRNradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. healthcare, freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty HealthShare and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services.